Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro, friends. I am replacing today's sponsorship message just to say that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. Today on the Daily Coffee Pro, we are talking about people who go into competition for the idea that it is going to make them famous. And I just want to say that this is a slippery slope. And the reason I'm talking about this is after a conversation that I've had with a couple of friends about why they want to compete. A lot of them are talking about the fact that, I want to get famous, and that's awesome for them. But I really want to challenge the idea of people using competition or anything really as a mechanism just to make them famous. Now, I come from a lot of experience with regards to this. I was in the music industry and got quite a lot of attention during that time, and became very interested with the concept of fame and what it does to a person and how different brands use it. Different people and different companies use it with regards to the way that they move through their business. So if you're using fame as the end goal, that's one thing. Another way to do it is to use fame as a part of your marketing strategy to achieve the long-term goals that you have. If you are using if you're using competition to get famous, I want to help you understand a couple of things about competition. When I talk to many people and they say, I want to be the world barista champion, people who I have spoken to that have already got to finals are telling me that it costs them somewhere in the order of $100,000 in sponsorship money to get there and compete at that level. So if you are looking to compete and become famous through competition, I want to prepare you for the things that are required to make that happen. You're going to have to get popular enough and have access to enough people that will give you $100,000 worth of sponsorship money to pay for flights, to pay for coffee, to pay for space to do rehearsals, to pay for your setup, to pay for coaches, to pay for all this kind of stuff. That's but one part of it. The other part is you'll need a coach. You'll need access to resources. You'll need to most likely go to Origin. You'll need a huge network of people that will help you get there. You're going to have to do all of this to get to World Barista Comp. On top of that, though, what comes with becoming that kind of famous is that you are going to have to give people a reason to want to get exposed to you. And people's attention spans get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And the amount of content you're going to be required to be able to publish on social media and keep people fed is getting more and more and more every day. And so not only are they going to want to see your journey up until that point, but you've got to keep them engaged. You've got to keep giving them content that they want to consume, that sets you apart. And that is exhausting. It is exhausting to come up with. It is exhausting to produce. It is exhausting to post. It is exhausting to comment on and to respond to, and all of that. People are not going to be satisfied with just the selfie again and again and again and again. And then also not going to be satisfied with just your posts of what coffee you're drinking. Now, if you want to be famous in coffee, I want you to remember that It may start with cute selfies and it may start with really pretty pictures of the cafes you're drinking coffee in. But if this is what's making you famous today and getting you attention, as you get more and more popular, you have to continue to raise the bar and keep people engaged, and it becomes more and more and more exhausting. And so let's say that you conquer your regionals. That gets you a little bit famous. And then you conquer your nationals, and that gets you even more famous. And then you decide you want to get to WBC, and you manage to secure the visas and the funding and everything that needs to get you. And that gets you like properly recognized as far as what you're considering is famous. You don't even have to win. You just have to compete. I want you to think about the stress and anxiety that's involved in maintaining that level of competition and that level of fame and doing it in front of the world. So it's one thing to compete because you're trying to get really great at what you do and to improve your skills and to learn and be able to engage in all parts of the supply chain. That's one thing. But if you're competing so that people can pay lots of attention to you, you're going to have to be able to deal with the stress that comes with dealing with all the anxiety that's ahead of that in front of everybody. Because once you have an audience and you've been feeding them, you don't have to keep feeding them. But if you do keep feeding them because you want to be famous, you can't stop. You can never stop feeding them because the fame monster is insatiable. It never stops needing to be fed. And it's a slippery slope, friends. It's one of those things that I have seen bury people in our industry and cause them so much stress that they don't know how to cope with it anymore. They don't know how to continue coming up with content. And then when and it doesn't pay anywhere near what you think it pays. So what that means, they then have to go find sponsors. They then have to go find people who fund this monster that is fame. But they feel like one of the cool kids finally. And so because you feel like one of the cool kids, it's all okay because you feel accepted and you feel like you belong finally. But I promise you, if you just decide to not feed that monster for a couple of weeks, you're going to be forgotten. And that's where the slippery slope starts. You start to need to continually be in front of people and give people a reason to want to praise you and connect with you so that they can feel validated, that you are now a part of this perpetual shitstorm of having to do stuff just to be famous, not because you want to have a career or not because you want to do something with purpose. And eventually that will wear you out. And it's not healthy. It's all based in ego. And I invite you to ask yourself and to be really honest with yourself. Why do I want to compete? And if you hear a tiny little bit of yourself say, because I want to be famous, then I would encourage you to listen to that voice and ask yourself, how much of me wants to compete because I want to be famous, and how much of me wants to compete for other reasons? And allow yourself the freedom to be honest and keep repeating it to yourself if it's there. I want to be famous. I want to be famous, and own it. And then I want you to be present in how it makes you feel. Because this is a savage industry filled with people who are clawing to get attention. And if you get on the bandwagon of wanting to get attention just for the sake of not feeling alone or lonely or wanting to be included, it's a slippery slope. And competition is no joke. Competition is incredibly stressful. And if you're using that as a mechanism to get you famous, I would implore you to consider again. Living in a society where social media seems to be the way that people feel validated and loved and nurtured cultivates, especially in an industry like ours where it attracts some of the most insecure people in the world. It's not a healthy playground for your ego. And so a long time ago, back in my music days, I made the decision to not strive to be one of the cool kids. And there was nothing more freeing than that. And I have never been one of the cool kids. I do this podcast because I have a legacy that I'm looking to leave. I have a legacy to empower the coffee industry with assertiveness and professionalism and realism, and that none of that is conducive to the idea of being one of the cool kids. I'm saying a lot of the stuff that the cool kids would not want you to know. And so by definition, I'm not one of the cool kids. And that's great because that gives me the freedom to just say whatever the fuck I want and use integrity, my own personal high standards of integrity, as a beacon for that truth. Once you want to be one of the cool kids and once you want to be famous, you are now bound by a completely different set of rules and all your freedom's gone out the window. So I just want you to consider, is fame really something that's going to help you in your career long term? Is it something that's going to be something you can keep up with? And do you want to keep up with it? I hope that gives you enough to ponder. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.